Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the House of Cinema podcast. Guys, before we start this show, grab your popcorn, grab your soda, grab whatever candy you like to bring in. Personally, I'm one of those guys that likes to mix my popcorn and M&Ms. That's the perfect mix of salty, sweet, and savory. But guys, we're here talking about DC League of Super Pets. A very interesting film. Um, I don't really even know how to describe this, but before we get into it, I do want to say a quick spoiler alert. I want to invite my guest this week. What's going on, Brandon?
Hey everyone, Brandon King, aka the Movie King 45, ASU Odyssey, Plot Devices. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be really fun.
How you doing today, Brandon?
A little exhausted, but TLDR, I got a lot of stuff done for the next couple days of work, so
Yeah.
that'll be nice, capable. And now I get to talk movies, so it'll be a nice little come down from the Arizona heat.
Dude, I bet you're scorching over there right now. I'm in Colorado and
Oy.
it's only 95 and I just don't even want to go outside. I can't even imagine what you guys are dealing with over
But
there.
is it humid where you are?
No, that's the one good thing about being up here. We get no humidity, so it's just straight up like desert heat.
See, we're in the midst of the monsoon season, so it's the 1 2 month
Same.
period of the year where it goes from it's 115 and manageable to it's 100 degrees and we're all dying.
Yeah, I totally get that. Like once a week, the humidity goes from like 0 to 100 at least up here. It's insane because I'm in Denver. I'm just like, it's a little pocketed bubble city. So like once a air pressure system comes in, it stays here for like 2 days. It's kind
Yep.
of fucking annoying to be honest.
I can
But
imagine, yeah.
literally, how you feel this week is sort of how I felt about this movie. Kind I'm not even gonna lie. I'm gonna get right into the harshness of it. I I don't really know what I was expecting because I remember before this movie came out, the big chat about this was it's a PG-13 animated DC kids film, so to speak, and that had me more interested actually than anyone working behind the scenes on this because this is played to be a kids movie. It's very much like go what is it, Teen Titans Go to the
Mm,
Movies.
yes.
It's very much within that essence, but it was that PG-13 rating. So when I sat down, I was just like, man, am I really gonna get like a dog voiced by Dwayne Johnson that's supposed to be Crypto dropping like damn it assholes? Like I'm fully prepared for this. I'm ready to laugh because I I set my expectations to a level, and it's really weird. This movie is not what I thought. Every time they were about to say a curse word, which was like three whole times in the movie, they bleeped it out. And when it comes to the gist of the entire story, other than the beginning, which just because I'm a dog lover got me a little bit, I found this movie kind of generic. How did you feel, Brandon?
See, it's funny because going into it, I had been saying on a bunch of other shows that like when people would ask like, "Oh, what's going to be like the sleeper hit or the underclass hit of the summer?" I was like, "DC League of Super Pets." It's an animated DC property superhero movie with two of the biggest movie stars on the planet. It's going to make a
Yeah.
ton of money. Can we curse on this show?
Yeah, I do nothing but curse on the shows.
I was
It's
like, oh, it's gonna
encouraged.
make a shit ton of money. God, that
Yeah.
feels good. Yeah, my family friendly shows. This is what happens. But no, I was curious because I had heard a lot of the early word of mouth being like, oh yeah, it's actually surprisingly charming and fun, and I was like, okay, sure, like why not? There's a space for stuff like that. We just had Minions. Why not have more family content in the audience right now? And it was from the guys behind like Lego Batman movie, which I don't know about you, I freaking love that movie. So I was curious to know what it was, and you're kind of right. It's pretty generic in like weird ways in that
Yeah.
the story feels overly convoluted, but the actual jokes and characters behind it, minus a couple of moments that we might dive into, just kind of feel ripped straight out of specifically DC origin story, but very much comic archetype action echelon type origin story. That I just found myself going, okay, cool, up until like the last 20 minutes when I thought, okay, cool, and that was kind of my thing throughout the movie.
No, I'm totally with you. And this movie is just stacked with its cast right now. You got
Yeah,
John Krasinski, Kevin Hart, Dwayne Johnson, Kate McKinnon, just some of the biggest names in film and television right now. And I don't know about you, but I found just the voice work to kind of be lackluster. And I felt like specifically with Kevin Hart, he's I guess he is his main complaint with a lot of people in all of his films is he's Kevin Hart in every film. And I feel like he's sort of taking the same route within his animated films as well, because I feel like he was just playing the same exact character from Life of Pets and Life of Pets 2. And I know a lot of people love that first one, including me, but I know that second one went down a lot drastically. And this movie, I think, made 40 million worldwide this weekend. So I'm
Wow.
real just so curious. Do you think that the draw of the voice cast and just the title alone is gonna make this movie big this or within the next 2 weeks?
I think that's absolutely the case. I think you got, again, The Rock and Kevin Hart, for whatever you want to say about them, are still global superstars. They bring in big bucks. DC, for whatever you want to say about it, is still a very noticeable brand. People look at it. There's people like our generation, I assume, who watched the Crypto Superdog TV show and were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, I remember Crypto." That kind of, or even older audiences who read the original, combat adaptation. Maybe that was kind of a thing. And obviously the curiosity is they're like, oh, John Krasinski's Superman. Oh, there's like weird Green Lantern incarnations, like Jermaine Clement is Aquaman. Like there's a Keanu Reeves is Batman. Like there's a
Yeah.
novelty there, and I can totally see that appealing to a large group of people. Whether it works or not, we might dive into.
No, yeah. This movie as a whole just feels very weird. And you explained it before, it's really kind of indescribable in a sense because it really rides that line of genericism. And I just don't know what aspect of that really comes from who. I want to say Dwayne Johnson, but I don't know because when you look at this movie, it's very formulaic. And when you look at the trailers, I felt like in some sort of way, they might have sold this in a very different way than the movie actually portrayed. I think they sold this as each hero of the Justice League has their own pet. And they even show you in the trailer the snail that goes fast like the Flash.
Yeah.
And then you've got the dog played by Kevin Hart that's broody and dark, just like Batman. And you see this in the trailer, and you're like, oh, cool. So we're just going to get like the DC pets of each superhero. You do and you really don't at the same time. And I think that's where I feel really conflicted with this movie. It feels like they're trying to go to a specific limit, but they're too afraid to cross the line. Like, I don't know why they just didn't make each animal a part of their hero. And that's what they do at the end. They try to tell this origin story of how they all find their dogs, which I just find very odd.
Which it's funny because going back to that initial comment that we had about Secret Life of Pets, it's basically that for a long time. It's the animal who thinks they has everything. They go out, they find oh, there's more to life and there's more to my species and the stereotypes
Yeah.
behind animals than we might think, and they learn a lesson along the way. But you're right, the best part of the movie is those last 10 minutes where we see the pets being the super pets. Like that's
Yeah.
actually kind of fun, and I wanted to see PB be with Wonder Woman. I wanted to see oh god, is it Chip who's the squirrel?
Yeah, I think
Like,
so.
yeah, I wanted to see that kind of interaction with Green Lantern. Like, I wanted to see that quirkiness, but there's also the question of, having your cake and eating it too. And there's that scene where, Superman, you see in the trailer where Superman is first taken out by Lulu the hamster, who I think is played
Yeah.
really nicely by Kate McKinnon. And, you see that scene and you see where Krypto's taken away. I was like, oh, that's, your big narrative problem. You're trying to take the Superman equation out of the picture because you kind of have to, but it also feels like a eating cake having it too situation where we want to be the quirky pet movie and we also want to be the big bold weird action movie, and it really can't balance the two.
No, yeah, and honestly, it kind of falls in the same line. I think a bunch of DC Warner Brothers animated projects have been going within just the past few years. I think they just haven't been on par or haven't been any better than just fine, in my opinion. And I know like a lot of people that feel the same way. And it's such a weird movie because you have I feel like they were setting up Superman, John Krasinski, to play a much bigger role, and they take him out yet again pretty generically. I know they just shoot like a thing of kryptonite into him, and then next thing you know, we've got Crypto thrown into these cages with all these just different animals, but all have the same personalities of all of the superheroes part of the Justice League. And I'm sitting here, I'm just like, oh man, this is just. I found myself really bored watching the bickering and back and
Yeah.
forth with specifically in the shelter, and the one thing that they get, I think, properly is the whole wanting to adopt a pet through an animal shelter, just because they say it in the movie, if we don't get adopted, we'll get murdered. And if you don't have a heart and you don't feel bad about that, then that's going to tug anyone's heartstrings. So I kind of feel like they're tugging at our heartstrings in this film, just in like, yet again, the generic ways that anyone with a heart would feel some sort of sympathy to. They're not doing anything revolutionary, which I'm not trying to say every film should feel revolutionary, but at least try to make yourself feel different. I feel like I just seen every single aspect of this, going back to The Secret Life of Pets, in The Secret Life of Pets, in the Sing movie. Like, everything still kind of comes down to the formulaic animation film for children. I think that's really what it feels like.
It totally is, and it feels like, again, the humor wants to have its cake and eat it too. It wants to be this weird, smorgasbord of like, look at all these DC references that we can make, like because they're living in a version of the DC universe. We can use that and poke fun at it, and
Oh
sometimes it
yeah.
does, and a lot of the times it just feels like background noise. Like you go back to the whole shelter scene. That could be a really funny kind of back and forth riff on, maybe their idols, like, oh, Green Lantern's not all that. What about Wonder Woman? Ah, it's not all that. Like that could be fun, but the only really thing we get in to even distinctify that from anything from being DC related is PB being a Wonder Woman fangirl. And like, that's cute, but it only goes for so long.
No, yeah, it really does. And I think another thing that really holds this aspect down, I think a lot of Warner Brothers projects with DC included is, I feel like Dwayne Johnson just came into the DC scene these past 2, 3 years since Black Adam actually started production. Like, he has come in strong like a rocket ship. This guy, every time he talks about any DC project, you see an outroar on Twitter, good, bad, whatever it
Well,
is.
that's just
I
The
mean,
Rock.
yeah, not just Rock, but the man is fucking electrifying, and I think he's suffering from the same problems former Warner Brothers people have had, and he's already talking about trying to spin off from this film along with sequels.
Mm.
And you can see how foundational this film is in that. And I just watch it, I'm just like, okay, so yes, they're gonna get a spinoff. So I see 20 spinoffs here. Can this feels just like a spin-off origin of an essence for animals that aren't even originated like Crypto with Superman in
Well, the
any
funny
of the
thing
other
is,
heroes.
the funny thing is, some of them are like Chip is a Green Lantern in the comics. They do very little to do with him, but he is in the comics. And like,
Yeah.
like Myrtle is a thing in the like kind of a joke character in the comics that they tried to revamp for this. And then Ace, who is a proper character in Batman mythology, but in this movie, it's really not until like the very, very end, and even then, it's a cheap excuse to be like, oh, he's totally Ace.
Yeah, and the way they give them their powers in this film, another generic,
Yeah,
forceful plot development. It's just like, how much or how long did you guys sit at your desk and think about just a burst of like energy whooshing through this place and just giving them all powers? Like, that's literally as boring as you can get. And I'm going to make the same argument that a lot of people with animation make nowadays, is animation isn't just for children specifically. I feel
yeah,
like they really had something here with this project, especially giving it a PG-13 label, which I honest to God don't really get. PG works fine. I've seen
yeah.
PG films blur out uh curse words before. Like, I don't understand what's so different about this movie. Are they trying to tell the audience that it's edgier than the rest of the children stuff that we've seen? Like, what are they trying to say with all of this? And that's really what I'm confused about, is I feel like they're trying to cater to so many different audiences. They're trying to cater to the young audience, they're trying to cater to the diehard DC fans for decades, but they're also trying to go towards the people that are fans of the MCU and these big gigantic worlds, just like Star Wars as well, both owned by Disney. But DC hasn't been able to find their project or property with this. And I feel like they might be starting to do that with their animated films, especially with Dwayne Johnson seemingly having a much bigger influence behind the scenes when it comes to projects.
And you know what the thing about Dwayne Johnson is that number one, I want to point out one of the two things that I really do like about this movie, which is I think the rooftop scene is legitimately great. I actually think that's the
Yeah.
one moment where both Ace and Crypto as characters kind of come into their own. Like, yes, it's super backstory sappy, but you can tell there's kind of a humanistic vibe between both The Rock and Kevin Hart in their voices, where they're actually trying to model themselves after one another. Because you're right, even going back, 5 or 10 minutes, however it was, it doesn't feel connected how this voice cast is. It feels like they were all recorded in different rooms properly. It feels like the
Yeah.
most disconnected celebrity voice casting group. But that scene feels specific. And I do also think that even, going to that whole disjointed feel, I kind of want to see the footage of The Rock in the recording booth, because from a lot of the lines, it sounds like he was having a really good time.
Yeah, he honestly, I did. I agree with you. It sounded like Dwayne Johnson was just like, you know what, this is an animated project that I'm helping produce. I'm behind the scenes on here, and he genuinely feels like, I feel like everyone has a good time within this film. I
If
feel like,
anything, he's the only one actually poking fun at his character. Like, he's the only one who's really poking at like the holes of the Superman mythology, whereas the
yeah,
other characters are just in the DC universe.
because I feel like that's also another Dwayne Johnson thing. I feel like he's very aware of the DC world
Hmm.
and what surrounds it, what the problems are. I mean, right now, ever since Comic Con, this whole Black Adam versus Superman thing, which we'll discuss a little bit more in a little bit with a specific scene that I kind of just found out about. But like this man is just, I don't know. I feel like he's having a massive influence on DC properties, and they're giving him, I think, a little too much freedom with this. Especially, I know they switched out a few of the projects a few months ago. This was supposed to come out, I think, back in June or something, and Black Adam was originally supposed to come out like a week ago, or some sorts. But then they all switched them. Who knows what happened with those? But yeah, we're getting this Dwayne Johnson film, and then we're getting Black Adam in a few months after this. But going back to the whole Black Adam versus Superman thing, did you stay for the credits?
I did, because I heard there was a post-credit scene, and
I did not hear that until today. And I sat there and I'm like, no way he did this. No fucking way did they do this. Uh,
it
how
would
did
be
you feel
one thing.
watching this?
It would be one thing if that scene was funny or clever or actually like looked different than the movie. It's literally just a tag saying how cool Black Adam is. Like,
I saw
I can forgive a lot, and I get why he did it, and I appreciate the actual like business synergy behind it. But as a moviegoer who had to wait through 5 minutes of credits for that, no.
I was so like bamboozled when I saw The Rock's Instagram feed this morning, and I'm just like, wait a second, bro, is he posting like deleted scene photos? And then I looked down at his description, and it's just like, did anyone stay for the post credit scene? And in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna assume not if you're posting them Monday morning, right after the movie premiered, because I sure as shit had no clue this was coming, and I saw the two screenshots of Black Adam and Black Adam's dog, and I nearly just dropped my phone in pure fucking laughter. I just for so many, I'm
That
kind
was
of
your
just
Joker
tired of
origin
Black Adam.
story.
Yeah, that is my Joker origin story. I'm so tired of hearing about Black Adam already. I feel like I've been hearing about Black Adam for 11 years. I'm tired about hearing about Black Adam fighting whichever Superman. I think this is just adding to that fire as well. Just like they're very blank on who Superman is, and I feel like that's what they're trying to build a lot out of these films. I feel like they're trying to sell a lot of those, or a lot of these current films based off of Superman versus Black Adam, or Black Adam versus the Shazam family. Because we got Shazam Fear the Gods coming out later this year in December. We got
What
Black Adam
isn't
coming out
didn't
this
Shazam get
year.
pushed?
No, yeah, you got Move Forward. It's coming out this December now.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're right.
They moved it with the they moved it with the Flash.
Right. Yes. 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 You're right.
Yeah, they moved it with the Flash. So, and then all these things with Henry Cavill, Superman. I mean, yeah, who knows what's going on? And I feel like they're trying to sell a false hope right now. And unfortunately, I still think it's working. And I'm kind of tired of it. I'm kind of tired of just feeling like I need to buy a ticket, or I don't need to buy a ticket, or if I want to ever see these characters clash or ever see any mythos behind something, I feel like I have to see this. And I feel like they're just going to keep throwing it at the end of at the end credit scene because that's what it feels like. We've been hearing about this movie for 11 fucking years, my friend. 11.
14, because The Rock was cast in like 2008 or some shit like that.
Oh my god, I thought he was only cast in like 2010. Was it 2008?
I think it was earlier than that. Yeah.
That absolutely blows my mind. But going back to Super Pets,
Yeah.
that I think that's really my biggest problem with this film and its voice acting is while I think the people are having fun, most certainly The Rock is. You just feel like none of them are actually talking to each other. You feel like they're actually not even listening to each other's dialogues in the recording booth. All the dialogue feels very separate, and honestly, this I hate to admit this, but the movie started making me like nausea. Like I started
Wow.
passing out a little bit. I'm just like, bro, there's no way. And it was specifically the very first scene when you're introduced to the rest of the pets in the adoption center.
Hmm.
Just like your first introduction, I'm just like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, none of these characters are given any unique characteristics other than Kevin Hart, who's just being Kevin Hart, and Dwayne Johnson being Dwayne Johnson. Everyone else just feels like they're a lesser version of the characters they go to be the pets of.
Yeah.
What it ultimately feels like. So I feel like I'm watching a characterless film for lesser characters of better characters that I'd rather see, if that makes sense. A whole jumble of words there.
No, you're totally right. And like, I don't want to like flip it on its head because I am mostly with you, but like, I do have like a couple things that stood out. Like, I think the
No, yeah.
whole, Kitty with the missile power joke, I thought that was actually really funny.
Yeah.
I think Natasha Leone, in the few moments she gets to shine as Myrtle, is actually kind of funny. And like, there's scattered things throughout that. Like, Thomas Middleditch and Ben Schwartz can never not be funny. They just are kind of their thing. Some of the animation's kind of cool. Like there are things in there that are neat, but you're right. At the end of the day, it just feels so disjointed and so it has such a lack of awareness for its own source material and its own shtick too. Like when you find out again, this is the team behind the Lego Batman movie that not only had such reverence for its mythology, but was able to take it down, rebuild it, and just shape it like Play-Doh through 90 minutes of screen time. And this just kind of bots it up and down and sees where it goes. And where it goes is a couple of, I guess, okay action sequences, but no real emotional payoff. And again, a bunch of celebrity voice actors who feel disjointed. There's no real sense of community with this. And for a movie called The League of Super Pets, that's really annoying.
No, like I want to touch on the emotional aspect of this movie. Like I said, I feel like a lot of the emotional beats within this movie are the most generic, and that's why they are the most successful uh, emotional beats. Most importantly, I think the whole just main story between Superman, Crypto, and Lois Lane. Crypto getting jealous of Lois Lane coming into the picture. I kind of sat there and I'm like, I get what story they're trying to tell us, but in 2022, you'd be surprised how many dog families I see between three people. And
Yep.
they never portrayed Lois as an intrusive person into their relationship. She always seemed pretty nice and pretty open, but I feel like you also never get enough time with her and Superman or the three of them to actually build up that hatred that Crypto develops for her. So when that's pretty much the whole arc for Crypto and wanting to save Superman is because he's always been Superman's sidekick or just Superman's best friend. I never really buy it because well, I know I am best friends with my dog, and any girl that I've dated loves my dog more than me. And I can guarantee you a lot of people feel the same way. And so I find it just an odd choice to have that be the high emotional beat of the story, especially when you just end it with them, the three of them coming together. And Lois doesn't do anything in this movie to really have Crypto switch his opinions on her. He kind of just does because the story calls for it. And that's where a lot of the emotion crumbles for me because there is none.
Again, see, I get the point of where they're coming from with it, which is the idea of like crypto needs to learn friendship. And like for a kids movie, that's perfectly serviceable. And if you can do that and make the characters likable and make the journey fun along the way, then maybe you learn something as well that you can grow up with.
Yeah.
I get the idea. I've seen enough kids movies to do that. The problem is Lois Lane is not given a character in this movie. Like
Yeah, she's in like 4 scenes.
she's in like 2 or 3 scenes maybe, and the most that she gets to be is like, well, crypto seems nice, and that's it. And for someone like me who like Lois Lane is like one of my top 5 favorite DC characters of all time, period, that feels like an insult. Like I almost wish that at some point during the movie they would have been like, "Oh yeah, what about the journalist who's always with Superman? She could probably help us with a bunch of knowledge." And Crypto has to be like,
Nope.
"Ah, that's sucks." But then they go to Lois, and she's actually really cool, and they actually build a bond. That could be a really cool plot element, but it's not there, and it just feels like a waste of characters just for the sake of having them, which is the worst kind of parody.
No, I absolutely agree with you. It's just super lackluster in all of its attempts for anything emotional in this movie. From the super emotional beats, like I said before, just being super cliche, to the more original beats being just super flat and
Yep.
just falls on and tumbles on its feet. And honestly, the action even gets kind of restlessly boring for me. I feel like something they do with this is they took the one shot a little too legit when it comes to action, because I feel like every single action scene in this movie is just one long shot. It just goes from character to character to character, which I'm not against, but it has no meaning, and it makes for something uninteresting when every single fight is like that. And I'm not trying to say that because it's a kids movie, it should take the lesser end of that
Right.
that bat hit right there. But being a kids movie should not disclaim it from doing something interesting with editing. Editing can really bring people, even children, way more into the film. And I feel like they just took this and they're like, everyone loves one shots, so let's fucking do it. And I think that's why I just find a lot of the action in this movie just not really memorable, because they are just one long shot and it's just super restlessly boring.
I almost wonder, conspiracy hat time.
Yes.
I almost wonder if Keanu Reeves had a say in that. It's just like, look, when we did the John Wick movies, we had like stylized camera movements, and this is my terrible Keanu
Yeah.
Reeves impression. We had like these stylized camera movements, like knowing where to place the camera and for how long. Let's do that for this. The other was like, yeah, Keanu, totally.
Like that's why John Wick was massively successful and we're getting a fourth
Yes.
film next year. Honestly, I wouldn't be too shocked, but I will say I think I would definitely see Keanu come back as a voice acting role for Batman. I think he said he wants to come into a live action version, but I'm like, okay, I wouldn't go that far, but I think you worked as Batman. I thought he said the funny one liners he needed as Batman for a kids movie. I think out of all the cast members, that wasn't John Krasinski or Dwayne Johnson or Kevin Hart, the big three in this. He was probably my most favorite, but it's Keanu Reeves. How the fuck do you not like Keanu Reeves, right?
Yeah, and
Like,
like he's doing what he's asked to do in his Keanu Reeves mannerisms, and if you like that, then you should have no problem with it.
yeah, it feels like this film is also very. I can't think of a better way to say this, but very scripted. Like, I feel like there was really no vision, no real creativity given to this project. I thought the animation was
I
just
don't.
fine. Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
I was just gonna say I don't know if I'd go that far where it's like there's no creativity to it, but I will say it does feel weirdly staged. Like I think the best stories, whether they're animation, live action, when
Yeah,
you get to a point in the movie, you forget that it's writing, you forget that it's actors, you feel invested in the characters, that they are living, breathing beings who have brains and souls, and those brains and souls can like do things outside of what the script demands of them. And this, you're right, just feels like players in an action figure game of just like, here, do thing. Here, you also do thing.
yeah. Here, you get this power, so you can do this. So this person can get this power, and then they can do this one specific thing.
Here, you
Um,
make joke. Haha, that joke's not funny.
and then here come then Kevin insert Kevin Hart joke. Like
Yeah.
that's how it really feels. And it it's hard to say, but it just got boring for me after a while. And I liked the first Lego Batman movie, but I have not liked any of the other Lego movies whatsoever. And
You
I'll
didn't like the
even
first
say,
one?
yeah, I
Oh
wasn't a
my
big fan of
god.
them. I think this is just a personality thing.
Fair.
This movie did the same thing that I feel like those things did that kind of numbed it down for me. I felt like they just went too referential throughout the movie, where it was just like, okay, every single line of dialogue is going to be a funny quip, and then a funny quip bashing some part of DC or Warner Bros. Or something along those lines, and or referencing a character or bashing a character's backstory with Batman or Ace and Batman having the same backstory, but they're all both broody, and neither
Yeah.
one of them want to look at it. Like, it just for me, it just gets super boring, super fast, and I see why people love it, and that's why I say it's more of a personality thing for me when it comes
Yeah.
to that aspect.
I mean, I even said in my tweet, just like if if this kind of cast doing these kind of thing with these kind of characters may seem even a little bit appealing to you, go nuts. Because again, it's a
Yeah,
movie that, for better or worse, has a grasp of what kind of fun entertainment it wants to go for, and it does that. And that I will say, going off to those positive reviews from before, I even got the vibe of just like, okay, I see where people are coming from. It's not super insulting. It's played pretty safe, but at the end of the day, it uses iconic characters in a kind of fun, referential way to the point where, like, if you're not looking too deep, you can have fun with it. The problem is, we're two idiots looking too deep at it.
yeah. That's really what it always comes down to. I think that's like my biggest problem too. Sometimes you look too deep in it, and I it's hard to say looking too deep into it, especially with animated films, because I feel like animation still has a stigma for being a child genre in many
Yeah,
aspects. And I think the one thing I will give Disney, give or take the whole Disney Plus animation debacle with Pixar, I think they have strived a big push for animation along with like Studio Ghibli and anime. I think those three are some big hitters for why animation's becoming more adult like. And even some of the older DC projects, I'll say too, like
yeah,
Batman Mask of the Phantasm, they do take a lot of those darker routes. But they just it feels like a lot of that's gone now.
but
And
again, I say all of that slightly positive thing of like I get where people are coming from,
yeah,
but I'm also completely on your train. Like we're in 2022, we're not in 2002, we're not even 2012 really. Like the state of American animation has shifted so much, whether it's
drastically.
whether it's like the it's the late aughts period of Pixar, whether it's Leica, whether it's Spider Verse, whether it's the implementation of the implementation of anime, whether it's whatever you want to say about them, the growth of studios like Illumination, things like that. Like the animation landscape is not so monotonous that you can define it by that stereotype anymore. And if you're going by that, again, even with Lego Batman, like I love that movie. And the reason I think that movie works so well is because it tries to be something different by taking that foundation and actually doing something with it. This is just the foundation. And sure, if you're going with the foundation, make it work, make it funny, but this isn't really those.
No, yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think animation's insane. I want to throw a quick shout out to one of my favorite movies last year, which was Flea, an
Oh,
animated
it's so good.
documentary. And I just want to say, an animated documentary getting nominated 3 times, got three
Yeah,
nominations.
all
That
deserved.
all well deserved. And I was super disappointed when it didn't win either animation or documentary. But I just want to throw that out there because I think that's also a film just to show people. If you love documentaries and you just hate animation, just watch it. It's a beautiful fucking film, beautifully animated. And I just needed to find a way to throw that out there because I think it is a staple of animation that should be pushed forward and showing that it is something then more than just a child genre. And I feel like that's really what this movie is. Like you said, it just has the groundwork. It doesn't have much of that. And I feel like when you think of like a Nickelodeon's fucking animation kids movie from 2005, that's really what a lot of those are. They're very just foundational, nothing much other than that. And I'm pretty sure they even have the Nickelodeon title in front of this movie, honestly.
I don't think so.
I,
Oh,
I,
wait, are you
I
playing about it or
huh?
are you seriously saying because they're two
No, yeah,
different companies?
No, I thought I saw a Nickelodeon animation in the credits somewhere in the beginning of the movie. But I just want
Oh,
to.
no, you know what it was? Although
What
it
was
may
it?
not be this, we may think it's two different things. Garfield is in this movie and they thank Viacom, which I think is kind of
That might.
hilarious.
What? Oh my god! I forgot Garfield was in this. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
And as I'm,
Oh my.
but as I'm, dozing off through the trailers, I see Garfield, property of Viacom, and I'm like, oh my god, they did
What?
it.
They fucking did it. But no, yeah, that's my main problem with this movie is it feels like the typical foundational animation film. It does anything spectacular. It does things pretty formulaic. There's nothing terrible about it, but there's nothing really to go home and talk to about it. And that's why I feel like it's very middle of the line for me. Would you
Qu-
agree?
I would, and I would bring up a question because I don't know if you've seen this or not. DC League of Super Pets, Minions Rise of Gru.
I have not seen Minions Rise of Gru. I
Okay.
went I pulled up with the suit. They didn't let me in.
You bold man. Because it's funny, these are almost on the same level for me. Where like they're both pretty meh, but each of them does something that kind of one ups the other, but also diminishes the other. It's this weird kind of like two
but
atoms formulaic of just meh.
but like Minions is a fucking force to be reckoned with, and this really is in no shape to that. I'm pretty sure Minions has over 600 million worldwide already.
I would not be shocked. But like again, it's like Minions has the better soundtrack, and like DC League of Super Pets has actually one great scene, but then like Minions is consistently funnier, and it just kind of goes back and forth while like all the other animated movies are playing in the corner.
No, yeah, I absolutely agree. Jeez, fucking. Honestly, I was really excited for. I shouldn't say I was really excited, but I was looking forward to this movie. It takes a lot for me to get somewhat really excited for an animation movie. I feel like a lot of animation companies have just been killing it though recently.
Yeah,
Pixar, Sony Pictures.
hell, DreamWorks just did The Bad Guys, and that movie's great.
That's what I heard too. I haven't gone around to it, but I'm hoping it comes onto a streamer soon because I do want to watch it. I was away for like 3 weeks, and it was around the time that it came out. And I never got a chance to see it, but I heard really good things about it. It made a good amount of money at the box office as well
Yeah.
for a small little indie animation film
Which I'm
over
glad
there.
because when we're talking about meh animation, DreamWorks has not been on the greatest streak recently. And then The Bad
No,
Guys
I
came out, and I was like,
know.
wait, this is what you guys can do.
Yeah, I know. Especially when you got DC League of Super Pets and their animation's cool, but
Yeah.
it's not really different. At least I like when animation tries to do something different, even though I don't like it.
Yeah, like,
You
we haven't
know?
really talked about like the proper animation really of it, but like, yeah, it's colorful. It tries to get this kind of pseudo Max Fleischery 40s kind of vibe to Metropolis. That's kind of fun. They take a bit of a playbook out of Hotel Transylvania with how like
Yeah.
Tarkovsky moves his characters, like very fluidly kind of thing. So like, it's nice, and like I think honestly my favorite thing is the end credits where it's like this kind of storybook quality thing. Like that actually kind of looked neat.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a lot of just like your typical bright colors, dimmed down in a megapolis type city.
Yeah, like big eyes and muted kind
Yeah.
of greens and
Yeah, bright yellows, bright reds, bright greens, bright brights, dark darks, usually how it goes. And like I said, I wish they just tried doing a little something within the style of the animation that made it stick out a little bit more. It's it looks smooth and clean, but it's just like if a movie is always center frame, it makes it uninteresting. You
yeah.
know, there's nothing visually capturing about the one thing everyone can really do. And making a clean animation, I feel like most professional animators can do. And
And
so it's not.
I was
No,
gonna
yeah,
say,
go ahead.
I'm not gonna bash the animators for this.
No, yeah.
They were probably pushed to the limit on this because again, it's a major
Oh, I
studio project,
know.
and yeah, we don't need to get into the conversation. But I'm not gonna bash them. I'm more gonna bash the approach of it taking it
No,
because
yeah.
if you go off of those pieces of concept art and you go off of that end credits piece, like there are ways to make this kind of thing fun and cute and quirky, but also like actually cool and make the action kind of pop. And it doesn't. Again, like as you say, it just goes to that normal standard of 3D animation that we've gotten so used to, which is not bad. Like it looks good, but there's no like, cool.
Yeah, and like you said, not blaming CG animators, because it goes back to this feeling very scripted. I feel like they just handed a textbook of every typical well polished animation and just handed it to him and be like, just make this. And they really had no artistic input whatsoever. And that's really what it feels like to me. And that's why I'm kind of disappointed, because I feel like there's so many great artists out there,
Yep.
especially within the gaming world recently. Just like The Last of Us Part 1 coming up, remastered. We've got God of
Would
War Ragnarok.
would
They
you have
bro,
wanted a
gorgeous.
photorealistic League of Super Pets?
I mean, I'm I that's a good question. I wouldn't be against it. Honestly, I wouldn't be against it. Just oh man, what was that 2006 movie with Owen Wilson that voiced that superhero dog?
Oh,
You know which one I'm talking
are you
about?
are you thinking of Underdog?
Underdog. Yeah, I'm
Was that
thinking of
Owen Wilson?
Underdog. Yeah, I think it was Owen Wilson.
I could
Okay,
I
I'm looking this up.
I love
I'm
how I
looking.
know what Underdog is, and I know that Peter Dinklage is the villain in Underdog, but I forget who voices Underdog.
Uh, oh, Jason Lee.
That makes
But yeah,
sense.
yeah, I'm talking about Underdog.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I picture a live action Super Pets movie with a few more pets to be like.
I I I don't want to say like, oh yeah, it looked good for its time because I haven't watched it in 10 years.
Oh my god.
God, you know what holds up? Underdog.
Dude. Oh my god, I'm just gonna post my top 10 comic book films of all time. And it's just underdog at number one, and everything else is just placed at number 10. Nothing beats it 1 through 9. It's just underdog 1 through 9.
Yeah.
But Brandon, it's time to get into some final grades, final thoughts. Would you recommend this movie to your viewers, my guy?
It depends. I I think if you are, if you're an animation completionist and you got to watch like all the big new releases, if you're a DC completionist, if you're a family obviously with young kids, I think like maybe, 10 or younger, then yeah, this is a totally, and especially if you have A-list or you have the Harkins discount or anything like that, if you can go see it at a matinee like not full price, go nuts. It's a fine afternoon. Lord knows it's pretty hot out here in most of the
Yeah.
country. Like air conditioning is good. That's all I'm going to say. But I think otherwise, yeah, I would at least wait until it comes on HBO Max, and I think it's coming on there in like a month or something like that. So you won't have to
Probably.
wait long if you're absolutely curious. But otherwise, yeah, you can skip this.
No, yeah, honestly, I'm with you, Brandon. This movie, I would say you don't have to rush out and see it. If you can catch a early matinee for like $8-10 in your local screening, it's a hot day, you want to kill an hour and a half too. It's a good movie to sit down, enjoy the air conditioning, but I think there's no harm in foul waiting for it to come out on HBO Max at the end of the day, which, you know what, happens sometimes. It
Yeah.
happens.
And you know what? Is that not kind of what HBO Max was for? It was to say, like, if
No,
you
yeah.
don't want to see it in theaters, you can see it on this.
That's why they got the 45-day theatrical window now on
Yep.
that. What Black Adam is gonna drop on HBO Max sometime in December, I guarantee you.
That
Or
sounds
maybe
wrong, but still.
no, it comes out October 20th and it has 45 days. So end of December,
It's a
early
Christmas miracle.
January. Honestly, DC needs a Christmas miracle. Between their films and the news, they have just not been in the best limelight recently. The past few months, and you
Actually,
know what? This is a good family film too. I want to say go out to if you got a few kids that you want to have them shut up for an hour or two. So it's a good one to drag them out to.
yeah, like I could imagine, like I have younger cousins, or at least yeah, my younger cousins, like my youngest, they will probably love it, and then the one who I'm actually thinking of, who is like 13, probably will not. So I'm a bit mishmashed on the brain right now. I apologize.
Nah, you're all good. So, Brandon, what's your score for this movie? I'm really curious. Out of 10.
I'm gonna be too harsh to it because this movie doesn't deserve that. I don't think, like, there's nothing objectively, I think, pitchfork and torchy wrong with it. But again, like as we've gone over the last 30 whatever minutes it has been, it's not really worth it. It's a 4 out of 10. I think it is perfectly fine, I guess, to the point of like there are a couple scenes that I'm glad that I watched. I'm glad that it exists in a certain form. And you know what? For this era of DC, and we didn't get into that, but like for this era of DC, when they are trying so hard to both solidify and deconstruct their entire universe, whatever Flash is going to be and whatever Aquaman is going to be, the fact that we got a League of Super Pets movie in this slate of DC is both hilarious and kind of heartwarming to me, because it means that DC is still at least kind of willing to explore like the weird, quirky depths of their comic universe. So if they keep going in that direction, yeah, why not? To the point where like if they do a sequel or if they do like just a series of shorts with this version of the characters, I wouldn't be opposed. Like I think there's potential there, but just as this end product goes, beyond the fact that again, it's boring, it's tedious, it's not super standouty. I know that's not a word, but again, brain is mush right now. I think just the matter of I wasn't connected to it. And I think for a movie like this, that's a dog movie, let alone a superhero dog movie, that should be easy. And that's a discredit to the movie.
No, yeah, honestly, I'm with you. I'm shocked you went with the 4 because I'm pretty like middle of the line, just like you. There was really nothing to write home about with
Yeah.
this film, but there was nothing where I'm sitting here like, oh, I hated that. That's not very good. Oh, that's just a lot of it was just the typical genericism of some animations, like your typical TV animated films, like any of the My Little Pony animation films. Okay, I won't compare it to that. I won't
I
compare
haven't
it that
seen
well.
any of them, so
That's pretty harsh. I remember the trailers. I only remember the trailers, people. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the 5.5 out of 10 on this. Just pretty middle of the line. I gave it that extra half a point just because I felt like Dwayne Johnson, a few of the voice actors did feel like they were having a good time with this, and you can get that. But like I said, just a pretty generic film at the end of the day. Nothing to go home about. I probably won't watch this again. Um, but you know what? I recommend it to all the little children out there, and just wait for it to come out on HBO Max.
yeah.
And Brandon, I just want to thank you so much for coming out and talking with me these past 45 minutes about DC League of Super Pets. Not something I thought I'd be talking about this summer, to be honest. But thank you so much for coming on. Where can we find you, my man?
First of all, we both deserve medals for talking about DC Super Pets for 45 minutes. Uh, but honestly, thank you so much. This was a total blast. I'm glad you got the invitation, and your show is great, and all this is super cool.
Thank you.
You guys can find me at Twitter and Instagram at the Movie King 45. That's Twitter and Instagram at the Movie King 45. You can follow my show, Plot Devices, that I co-host alongside Noah Guzman. We're both film critics and writers for a site called ASU Odyssey, which is ASU's Odyssey chapter. Right there, occasionally we post episodes bi-weekly. We have our series Directorial Debuts, which is all about directors' first filmmaking. And you guys can comment on those social media feeds what you want our season 1 episodes to be. We're working that out right now. And last but not least, you can follow my band, Cablebox. We just released our first single, Wish. It's over on all streaming platforms. Again, Cablebox Music on Twitter, Cablebox_music on Instagram. Go follow it there. And yeah, just thank you so much. This was a total blast.
Wow, that's fucking sick as shit that you're making music, man. I love that so
Thank
much,
you. I
guys.
appreciate it.
Go follow Brandon and everything he just said. And you guys can always follow us at the Suit Up Geeks on YouTube, on Twitter. The link's down below. Don't forget to hit that like, comment, and subscribe down below. And guys, check us out next week where we are joined by Aaron from Feeling Film, talking about Brad Pitt's latest film, Bullet Train, which the trailer in any single movie theater I've been in has spoiled the entire thing. So I'm really just going in hoping it's a good old fun time at this point, just because I know how it all goes.
It
But
looks
thank
cool.
you. Dude, it looks like a good time. It's directed by David Leitch, so I'm sure it's going to have good action. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for you guys to watch it. Let us know down in the comments what you thought about DC League of Super Pets. And for me, thank you so much for joining us, Brandon. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.